Hello everybody. I'm going to be teaching you about the minor scale, specifically for melodic death metal, and teaching basic harmonies and how to use these intervals to create harmonies. So here we have the E natural minor scale. In this case, we're in E standard, but this can be applied to any standard tuning that you use. So in this case, because we set our E as a root note, which is just going to be the open string, our first interval is going to be called the 1, which is just the root note, right? And then in this case of the minor scale, we're going to go up to the 2, and you can see right here we go up to the flat third, the flat 3, and then we go to the 4, which is on the 5th fret, and then we go to the 5th, which is on the 7th fret, then we have the flat 6, and then we go up to the flat 7, back to the root. That is the very basic interval for the natural minor scale. But in the case of melodic death metal, it does not strictly use the natural minor scale. In a lot of cases, you often see the harmonic minor scale being used, which is just a natural minor scale, but instead of using the flat 7, which would be on the 10th fret, you would actually use the 11th fret for the raised 7th, which gives you a very classical sounding feel because of the major with the flat. And then in another case, there is also the use of the, if I can find it, the Phrygian major scale too. This is also a common scale to be used because all three of these scales have dark sounding melodies that you can put to them. And in the case of E Phrygian major, the reason why you can use this is mainly because of these three notes right here, or these four notes right here, which share the same balance as the minor scale. And so, in this case, if we go right here and we go to this song right here, you could see the use of the minor scale. So we have straight minor right here. This is all natural minor, right? This is root, this the second, flat third, etc. And then this part right here, this is minor, 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 and then we have Phrygian right here because of the 1 right here. That is the flat 2 of the Phrygian major scale. Okay? And you can combine all three of these scales to create a very dark sounding melody that is perfect for Melodeath. And that's the first thing that you should probably keep in mind whenever making melodic death metal riffs. And then we have the second part, which is harmonies. So harmonies, whenever you're creating them, is kept in the scale. So if I were to create like a minor third harmony, right? If I just said, okay, I'm gonna go 7, 9, and 10, right? 7, 9, 10. What you can do is that you can take the root note. You can count up 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, that's your harmony right there. You go dun dun dun. And that's a minor third melody right there because they all share that minor third interval. The same applies. You can apply this to almost anything that you want. Like if I wanted like a major third, okay, I would count up 1, 2, 3, 4 notes, and then I would have a major third melody. But you have to keep in mind that not all the harmonies sometimes don't sound like they should fit together. And in the case, especially if you want to go for like a major third melody, you have to be very specific about what scale you use. Because if you try to use a major third harmony with a minor scale, it will sound very empty. It doesn't sound good. And that's the reason why minor third works so well because the minor third is in the scale. It's a part of the minor scale, which is why you may mainly see minor thirds being used in melodic death metal, metalcore, death. For example, they didn't really use. They used a lot of the 4. They used the 4, and they used the 5 too, and those also work because they're in the scale. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And another thing is that a lot of songs, like especially at the gates, like if we search up Slaughter of the Soul, for example, it's in B standard, but it all uses the same principle. It's all in the natural minor scale, but you have a bit of other scales mixed in there as well. As we can see here, this riff right here, It is all part of the minor scale. This is straight up just minor scale, right? Like the five, that's this note right here. That's the flat six. That's the flat six of the scale, right? Everything in this corner is natural minor. And another example of switching scales is this song right here. So this song is very much rooted in harmonic minor scale, which is the scale where you just change the 10 to the 11th fret. So you can look through this right here. It goes minor, 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 and then this right here. That is harmonic minor. And the reason why is because of the raised seventh. This note right here, if you go to natural minor, that is actually switched to the fifth fret. Harmonic minor, that is at the sixth fret. So instead of having a straight up minor feel, you get a bit of a darker feeling with that harmonic minor, which is perfect for melodic, for like Melodeath. And nothing is also showed by the this right here. So this is a very I really like this interlude right here. So this is goes 7 6 7 into 10 9 7. So another thing to keep in mind whenever you're making melodic death metal is that you have to outline the feeling of your riff. Like you cannot just play 7 9 10 and expect it to sound like anything. You have to make sure that you have that feeling. You want to outline that feeling of your riff as you go into it. Like, if let's go back to an earlier example. If I had just like not if I had just went from 5 to 3 to 2, it wouldn't sound as good as it would because that is just straight up minor. It doesn't deviate from the already pre-established context. But if you take that context without having any other previous context to begin with, you give it a new feeling that sounds like it belongs there, right? It doesn't sound out of place, and that's one thing. That's one really important thing to keep in mind whenever you're making melodic death metal, is that you want to make sure that the context that you're giving the riff matches that dark feeling that you want. And in some cases, you don't want to immediately go into a straight up minor scale. You want to use some the other scales like the Phrygian. Like this would be a Phrygian thing right here. This is Phrygian mixed with minor because this works. And the reason why this works is because I didn't play anything on the second fret. If I played anything on the second fret, this would sound bad. It wouldn't sound like it belonged there because it sounds very chromatic. And that's another thing to keep in mind. Chromaticism has its place in music, but in the case of melodic death metal, it can sound very out of place. And that is why you don't want to have any pre established context if you want to play something like this. If in this case, if we have the 5, we have the 5 right here, the 5th fret, into the 3rd fret, into the 1st fret. If I had want to do like the 5th fret into the 3rd fret, into the 2nd fret, then it wouldn't work because it will sound very out of place. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. So I hope you learned something from this. Remember, intervals are just the steps between the frets. All the intervals are just the steps. And E harmonic minor, natural minor, pentatonic, major, all of these use very foundational steps, especially the major. The reason why it's called the major is because all of the intervals are major intervals and they don't have any flats. Like you can see, it's the root, the major 2, the major 3rd, the major 4th, the major 5th, and the major 6th, and the major 7th, right? All of these are following a very specific set of intervals which make up the sound that you hear. That's why minor sounds like it's a minor and it's not major because you switch up from major to the flats, right? Instead of the 1, the major 2, the major 3, the major 4, the major 5, the major 6, and the major 7, you get the roots, the major 2, the flat 3rd, the major fourth, the major fifth, the flat sixth, and then the flat seventh, which makes it sound very melodic but also sad at the same time, which is why it's minor. Well, I hope that this helps you out. I hope this helps you out, my friends. I know whenever my teacher taught me this, it opened up a lot whole new possibilities for songwriting. So I hope this also helps you. Goodbye.